Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending upon where you're at around the world. Where are we at with everybody logging in? Starting to see everyone populate the window. Good. As you get into the chat window, please start typing in where you're at. So if you type in the city or country or state that you're at, we will be getting everyone in there. And 352 people. Good to see. Lots to learn today. Building wealth. You know, wealth's an interesting subject. And while you're all typing in where you're at, I will start the idea of wealth in your head. First ever thing I thought of wealth when I was a young man was, I wanted to be a millionaire. I thought being a millionaire was the thing. And I didn't really even understand what that meant. To me, being a millionaire was, did you make $1 million? Then it was having $1 million net worth. Then it was having $1 million in cashable assets. And then it was making $1 million in a year. And then it was making $1 million in a month or in a week. And then ultimately making $1 million in a day. And that to me was sort of where we started this whole concept in my mind of being wealthy. It wasn't until later when I actually learned from a gentleman named Buckminster Fuller, where he defined wealth as the number of days forward, meaning how many days could you live without working again. So very important question to ask yourself is, how many days forward can I live without that? And that's really where we're sort of aiming with my version, or what I would like to see as a leverage format. So it's really important for every one of us to sort of really understand that methodology. So if we take a look at it, most real wealth is using other people's money and other people's time. If you look at the largest wealth on the planet, that's where it comes from. It doesn't come from using your own money. It doesn't come from just doing some work and taking a percentage of that money. So it really comes down to, how do you attract other people to invest with you? How do you attract other people to want to use your abilities or your connections or your capabilities to actually build that whole thing? And so where we're going to address today is actually that whole leverage side of it. Now, when we use the term leverage, okay, what we're looking at is, and by the way, I hope you're taking notes today. If you haven't started taking notes, please do so. For those of you who haven't typed into the chat window, type in your city. I am going to type in my city just to get it started and open the chat window. There it is. It's now open. So you can type in what city, what state, what country you are in. Now, when we take a look at leverage, and again, my definition of leverage is different to most people's, and we'll discuss it more today, but just to take you back to when I first learned leverage, I learned the subject of leverage based on a simple factor. And by the way, for any of you that want to continue your learnings of wealth, at the end of the session today, I will open a link for you to join my 30x Wealth Challenge. It's 30 minutes a day for 30 days learning wealth with me, so that you, at the end of that 30 days, will have a wealth plan for your family. Now, just think about that just for a second, a wealth plan for your family. If you could, and Steve, if you can type in where you're at, Storm, Jorge, Kenny, Mike, Cortland, James, Steph, Tom, let's see where you're at. Jasmine and Lauren, what cities are you in? If you can type that into the chat window for me so we can all see that. Now, that 30 days of building a wealth plan for you and your family. So that's where most people, they want to be wealthy. They're willing to do a bit of the learning, but rarely do they sit down and build a plan. And that's why over 30 days, I'll help you build a plan for this thing, so that it's not something you have to worry about. It's something that you have a plan for. I think that's a really important thing. In Alaska, well, there we go. Good to see. Philippines in the building. Good to see. Devon, hey, Steve, how you doing? So leverage, when I first learned it, was about more with less. How are we doing? Cork in Ireland, James. Phoenix for Jonah. Good to see. As we start to understand the more with less philosophy of achieving more results with less energy, less effort, less input. Where I ended up with that was with the definition of do the work once, get paid forever. And so the learning work is that biggest work where you do the learning once and you will get paid forever. Brazil in the building. Jorge from Accrescente. It's good to see you. Mexico in the house as well. As we get to this understanding of leverage, of how you can work once and paid forever, and of course, that's sort of the foundation of a passive income, where we go in this whole perspective is looking at the two sides of money. In Billionaire in Training, the book, which I'm hopefully you've read. Hey, Larry, good to have you in. If you've read Billionaire in Training, what you understand is the process of building wealth. If you haven't read it, please do read it and join our Facebook group on Billionaire in Training. So at the entrepreneur level, if I just go back and make sure everyone understands that, at the entrepreneur level, employee, self-employed is about making money. Manager and owner is about having people work for you to make you money. Investor is about your money making money. Entrepreneur, the top level, is about other people's money making you money. So how do you build a business, a real estate enterprise, a business that you can take to the public market? How do you build a business where you will get investment into that business? So that entrepreneur level really starts with that attraction of capital. And where does the attraction of capital start with? It starts with you. You know, let's just use a simple example. Let's imagine you walked into a business investment meeting and you didn't know who was speaking, and all of a sudden 3 people walked up to the front of the room. It was Bill Gates. Who else are we going to throw up there? Let's throw Warren Buffett up there. So Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and Richard Branson. So Richard Branson. The 3 of them walked up and said, would you like to invest? And you're sitting there going, well, of course. And you don't even ask the business. You don't even ask what it is. You just say, yes, I'd like to invest, because the 3 of you are the people actually doing that. So as you grow to this entrepreneur level, what you have to build is that reputation. So the 4 main points behind that and understanding how they work is of real importance. Obviously, your experience. What businesses have you run? What investments have you made? How have you done in your past? The results that you've got from that experience. Your level of leadership capability. Do you have the ability to lead that? See, when you look to invest, rarely are you looking at the idea only. The majority of time when you're investing, you're actually looking at not just the idea, you're looking at the people behind the idea. Who is the team? Who are the people? Who's the leader of that team? And if I'm willing to invest in them, then I'd be willing to invest in others. So again, in the chat window, type in someone other than the 3 I mentioned, other than the Gates and the Buffetts and the Bransons. Who would you invest in? Who do you know that you said, you know, if that person asked me to invest, I would just invest no matter what. If that person asked me to invest, I would be in. You know, if it's someone you know, great. If it's just someone who's famous, great. So if you can just start typing that in, that would be fantastic. And finally, personality. You know, do you get along with the person? Are they likable? Because the know, like, and trust factor is very high when people are looking to raise capital for sort of things. Oh, thanks, Mike. There you go. I knew someone would be like Elon Musk. Great answer, Tom. Great answer. I definitely think if Elon Musk was looking for investors, I'd be high up on that list as well of people that I would want to invest with. But, you know, the guy is a little crazy, but then again, it takes crazy to make some good money. Everyone else, type it in. Jorge, who are you going to invest in? James, Kenny, Mike, Storm, who are you going to invest in? Think about that just for a moment. And then start to reverse that and think about, okay, what would it take for people to invest with me? And most of the time, you know, this is why it happens. Most people only get money or investment money from their family because they're the only people with a know, like, and trust factor or a crazy, stupid, dumb factor ready to invest. So yeah, Kenny's got one. Storm Ray's good choice. So we start thinking about this, and we start thinking about why people invest. And let's be blunt about it. People don't invest in just an idea. When people watch that TV show, Carlos Slim Jorge, yes, absolutely. Carlos would be another great example. When you watch that TV show, Shark Tank, or actually Dragon's Den on the other side of the world, it's called Dragon's Den. When you watch that, you would seriously think that, okay, they only seem to invest in people who have a good idea. And that doesn't make any sense to me. If you look at, I interviewed Lord Sugar recently. And when Lord Sugar when he interviews people to invest, he runs the whole, the Apprentice TV show in the UK in order to be able to determine who to invest in. And he spends literally months having them go through a process before he'll invest the £250,000 to help them open their business or grow their business type thing. And so that to me is far more how people actually make an investment decision and how that money is raised. If you go to an investment capital event, right, and you see people doing pitches and stuff, very rarely do the pitches ever become into anything. Most of the time, those deals are done at the bar type thing. And if someone gets along with someone likes someone, then the investment capital will flow. If they don't, it won't. So let's think back to how that whole thing really becomes to, if you're going to get invested in, then what are people investing in? If you start thinking about how you manage money, so if you have a small amount of money and you're very good with it, then ultimately when you get a large amount of money, you'll be very good with it. And vice versa. If you're on a small amount of money and you're not very good at managing it, then rarely will people trust you with a lot of money to manage. And so looking at how you manage your finances, even with a small amount of money, is very important. Questions. Okay, they're direct. Okay, you can send questions to the entire group, or you can send questions direct to me. The books, let me put up the link here. Yeah, someone was asking for the books. That's where you can get all the books. Billionaire in Training is the one down in the bottom right-hand corner. I will be releasing a 17th book in about 3 months called Raise Your Hand Marketing. So if you're ready for that, if you just want to click that link, gang, you don't have to do all the buying stuff now. Just click the link now so that you do actually have all of the links there when you need them. All right, so let's get back to it then. If you think about how you're managing money now, I can take that link down. There you go. If you think about how you're managing money now and how you actually handle that to me is a very big part of what takes that future for you and what takes an investment into you at some stage in the future. And that's why one of the things I've always taught is how to get out of debt. Now, I'll very quickly go through this example. It's a simplistic methodology of saying, how do you get out of debt? And this may be for you or it may be for someone you know, but learn this so that you can teach it to someone you know, whether it's a family member or a friend or something. But basically, this was a young couple I coached many moons ago, and this was their situation. They had $146,000 in total debt. Now, admittedly, though, they were fair way through paying off some of these. Like the cars were towards the end of their loan value. The personal loan was towards the end of its loan value, and so on. Now, what happened with this couple is when you examine their income after taxes, one was part-time, one was full-time, then after they paid all their monthly incomes or their monthly minimums on their credit cards and their bills, they were left with a lot of money. They were left with $2,200. And you sit down and you start to think, dang, that's not a lot. No, but they'd put themselves in this situation, so they had to actually handle it. Now, all we asked them to do was find an extra 10%. Now, in this particular case, I'm going to do the math on 10%. In this particular case, the gentleman actually got a job on Fridays and Saturdays delivering pizzas and made more than the 10%. So they paid it down a little faster. But I'm going to do the math just based on if he just did that. Now, why is this important? You see, if you're going to be financially free, you need to be good with money. I don't care what level of money it is, you need to be good with that level of money. So here's what we do. We work out the ratio, and that's not the number of payments left. It's just the ratio of dividing the payments by the total amount. Now, if you've got two that are identical or very similar, like if one's 27 and one's 28, but one of them has 10% interest and one of them has 2% interest, you obviously pay off the one with the higher interest rate first. So this particular example, we took this couple and we paid off the 290 on the store card because it was the lowest ratio. So with 390 total, we got rid of that in 4 months. Why? Getting out of debt is very much a psychological thing. Okay, so it's psychological to get people out of debt. So we'd paid that one off. We took the 390, added it to the 250 up here, so we're at 640. We'd been paying it off for 4 months already, and so it had already gone down in value a little bit. So we actually paid that off in 6 months. Now, again, these numbers are rounded off, so don't panic if they're not perfect for you. They're all rounded to the numbers. So then we took that 640 and added it to this 300. Now it's 940. They'd already been paying it off for a period of 10 months. So it had gone down in value. But then another 4 months, they knocked it out. And so on and so forth. You see how we're rolling up this amount of money. What we're doing is rolling it up. Now, why is this important to understand? What's important for us to understand here, gang, is that the way we actually pay off debt is by keeping those minimum payments and making those payoffs, okay? So roll up that minimum payment to the next one. You'll see now the personal loan, $1,290 per month paying it off. So we knock it out pretty dang quick. And then we go up to the top one here, the second car, we knock it out pretty quick. Now, if we really wanted to, we would pay off that home loan as well and get them debt-free. And if you follow a bunch of the training now, it is really about getting people into that debt-free situation. And so this, my friends, is the simplest way I can teach people to get out of debt. Don't try and pay off 10% on all of them, because then it doesn't look like anything's happening. There's no psychological move. If you do it the other way, it will get there. Now, why do I want you understanding financial management? Very simply put, if you are in a scenario where you're not good at managing finances, you'd better study that, because otherwise, why would anyone ever invest with you? Why would someone and we're not talking next week, next month for most of us on this call. We're talking 3, 5, 10 years down the road. But if you're 3, 5, 10 years down the road and you've got all of these people wanting to invest with you, then you're in an entirely different situation than where you're at right now. So that's why we want to be very good with financial management and get ourselves to that position. Now, what are your two biggest expenses in life if we're going to manage our expenses? Taxation and interest are the two biggest expenses most people have over their lifetime. Interest, obviously, is, I don't mind paying interest as long as someone else is paying for it for me. Like if I'm paying interest on a car, that makes absolutely no sense. To pay interest on a depreciating asset makes absolutely no sense. To pay interest on an investment property makes all the sense in the world, because A, I'm not paying the interest. My tenant is paying me paying rent or paying the mortgage for me. Taxation is obviously the next one on our list. Most of us in our lifetime are going to pay more money in taxation out there into the world than we will in any other form of cost to our world. Now, that seems, it just seems logical, but we got to know it and study it. I for years have studied it. I have accountants who are very, very good at this stuff, because it doesn't make sense to pay more tax than is legally necessary. Now, I want to pay what's legally necessary, but I don't want to pay any more than that, if that makes sense. So we've got to study and understand these so that we're in a position where when people come to invest with us, we know what we're doing, sort of thing. So, okay, that leads us then to the compounding effect. Ultimately, a compound interest is not a complex thing. It's getting interest on interest. Now, when you are sitting here in a situation of raising capital and helping people invest money with you, What you want to do is help them compound their returns. So you want to build great returns for them. Other people's money and other people's time come with a level of knowledge. There's a level of responsibility that comes with it, but there's a level of knowledge that is needed with it too. Now, if we follow through the compounding effect, we know that we can, everything doubling one day at a time. And this is where it kills me most. When people don't start, when they don't start today, they think, oh, I've only missed 1 penny, 1 cent going to being 2 cents, or 1 penny becoming 2 pennies. No, you've missed 5 million becoming 10 million. And so that immediacy of start is one of the most important factors of it. So let's talk about investing from a perspective of psychology just for a few minutes, okay? If I see someone with bad habits, I know they're not going to invest. You need to build the habits of investing. If I see someone whose family has never invested, they live with the tradition of never investing, therefore they're not investors, therefore they sit there saying, oh, well, I don't invest. My family's never invested. Why should I invest? No, you must build that level of knowledge, I guess, and go against some of those old traditions. If you stay with the old family traditions, then yeah, you may not move to that. You may not want to. And so I think it's important to understand what stops people investing. The peer pressure. I mean, ultimately, we can't be more blunt than to say what other people think of you is none of your business. It's not up to them to decide for you what it is that you're going to do and how you're going to build wealth. You need to get yourself where peer pressure is actually other investors. I know when I hang out with my buddies who are investors and I sit there and say to them, oh, yeah, haven't done any deals this month. It's like their level of looking at me, the way they look at me and go, what do you mean you haven't done any deals this month? So put yourself in a scenario where the peer pressure is to invest. The peer pressure isn't one of going backwards. The peer pressure is one of going forwards. Now, and we will say this very, very bluntly, that your ability to learn determines your ability to earn. And there's no more simple way of saying that than just saying, keep studying, keep learning this thing. And that's again why if you want to come on the 30-day program with us, I'll make sure I get you the link for that. But I do a 30-day program on life skills and success. I do a 30-day program on business, and I do a 30-day program on wealth. So if that's for you, then fantastic, we'll get you that. Next thing, fear. And I think ignorance leads to fear, gang. I think that's sort of a big part of what happens to people in their mindset. They don't get there because they are worried about everything. Apathy. I hate that old movie where they said greed is good. That's not true. Greed is not good. What's good is the desire to help, the desire to grow, the desire to add value, the desire to leave a legacy. I know for me and my family, our desire to leave a legacy is more important than pretty much any other aspect of this thing. So that's really where we as a family operate. What is the legacy we're going to leave behind? And that's why we need serious wealth. The old looking good going nowhere, the Friday night rich guy, that's another one that stops people investing. So we're going to get to this investment stuff in a little while, but I need you to understand the psychology behind it. And maybe even what stopped you investing, But Brad, are you saying we shouldn't borrow to buy a car? What if the interest rate on the car is less than what I'm earning on my savings? I'm not saying don't borrow money to buy a car, but maybe you don't need that level of car until an investment is paying for the car. I guess my response to that in most cases is one of, if I can, actually, I'll tell you a story, Tom. Let me make it pretty simple. So I wanted to buy a Rolls Royce many moons ago, okay? It was a beautiful Rolls Royce. It's the drop head coupe. It was the first one of the drop head coupes out there in the marketplace. And it was the Rolls Royce blue, which interestingly enough is very similar to the blue of this here, what stops you investing blue. So when I did that, I sat down and went, okay, here's this car. It's going to cost me 600 grand. I can put 600 grand in cash, or I can take that 600 grand and invest it in a business, buy a business that will pay for that car for me. So yes, we did borrow the money to buy the car, but we put the money into a business that made enough profit to pay for the car. So at the end of I forget the term, it might have been 3 or 4 or 5 years of the term of the loan, we still owned the business and we had the car fully paid for. And we had a tax deductibility to some of the things or some of the aspects of the car. That depends on where you're at as to how that works. So hopefully that answers the question there for you, Tom. But yeah, in essence, I'm not saying don't borrow money to do it, but so when we get to this whole having other people's money invest, you've got to have gotten through all of these things. You need to have the resolve rather than the pain of regret. Now, I'm going to take you through something here that to me is possibly the fastest way to leverage yourself to retirement. Like how many years? In fact, everyone just go to the chat window and type in for me, what is your goal number of years to retirement? Now, unless you're very seriously along the road, don't put anything under 5 years. Like if you've got 10 to 20 years is where most people should be aiming. I think anybody can retire in 10 years as long as they're not deep in debt right now. As long as you're not deeply in debt, you can retire in 10 years. So give me your number. Yeah, Tom, what's your number? Storm, what's your number? How many years do you want to be before you retire? Now, for me, I sit with most people and I look at retirement. And the first question to ask yourself, 16, 8 years. Thanks, Steph. Keep typing in, gang. Keep typing it in. What's your number? 10. Thanks. Kenny, what's your number? Jonah, what's your number? How many years? Yeah, Tom, I don't want to retire. I'll get bored. Let's put it different then. Tom, when do you want to have financial independence where your business or your money or, you don't actually have to go to work. The business makes you money or your investments make you enough money that you never have to work again. Let me just jump over to this question. Keep typing it in, gang. I'm getting questions because some people said they're going to have to leave a little early. Okay, the 30X Wealth Challenge, all right? So 30X, if you go on my website, it is a $1,000 program, $997 to be precise. This 30X Wealth Challenge, I'm going to do it for $99. Why? I'm going to do it for $99 for one simple reason. I want testimonials, okay? So I want you to do the 30X Wealth Challenge with me for 30 days. We'll meet together. You'll watch the video every day. The group will meet together every single day. And only, by the way, I'm only doing that for 100 people, the $99. So if you're one of the 100, click that button. In fact, everyone just click that button now so you've got the link so I can take it down and get back to the teaching. So yeah, click that link so that you have that group. We are sold out in the August session that's already running. So September 1st will be the next group to start that challenge. But my deal with you is I'll have it done. You will do it for $99 based on one thing. That is, you give me a testimonial at the end of it so that we can build the promotions of that. All right. So when we start thinking about the number of years of retirement, the fastest methodology I can get pretty much anyone to retirement is their own business if they're already in that business, right? So if you're in business already, getting your business to run without you is usually where we can get people to retirement the fastest. The next fastest is real estate. In real estate market, I can generally get people to retirement in 10 years relatively easy. Okay, now, let's imagine that you could come up with a deposit for $250,000, pound, euro, whatever your currency is, dollar property every 2.5 years. Now, you might have a deposit now, you'd have 50 grand now, and you might have that in equity, you might have it in cash, you might have it wherever you've got it. But when you sit down and you start looking at this piece of property, you're looking at a $250,000 property. Now, Imagine you were just buying at market price. So we're not going to use any of the speed methodologies here. We're not going to use any of the assuming that you can negotiate fast. We're not going to assume you buy in the 7.5-year doubles, but we're also not going to assume you're buying in the 20-year doubles. How do you do that? Well, you can go to the internet anytime, anywhere, and you can Google property values in, put your hometown in or put your home state in, right? Property values. And most parts of the world, I know in the UK, I can go back to the 1915s, 1910s and get values. In the US, I can go back to about 1937 and see values for most parts of the thing. So depending upon where you're at, you'll see the values. Now, what you'll do is how often does my property double? How often does the value of real estate in my market double? Now, if you're in, I'm just going to stick with the US examples. If you're in one of the flyover states, one of the middle states where there's plenty of land, and yep, that's what there is. There's a ton of land, right? There's no ocean blocking growth. There's no mountains. No, it's just lots of land. You're going to see that your values double approximately every 20 years, 15 to 20 years, right? Not bad, ultimately. Not bad, but not good either. Now, if you go to some of the more built ups, you'll start to see 10 years where they'll double. If you go to the more beachside, limited market areas sort of thing, the smaller, they're generally bigger towns or bigger cities, but there is some limiting factor to them, like a mountain range, or there is a views, or there's an ocean, or there is a lake, or there is a river, or something along those lines. You'll see those markets double every 7 to 8 years, basically. So my old hometown, Brisbane, Queensland, Australia, was a 7 to 7.5 year doubling part of the world. Loved it. Think it's amazing. And every city in the world, you can look up how often yours doubles, right? Now, in your purchases of these pieces of real estate, we're going to assume you have a 20% deposit. Why are we assuming that? Because generally with a 20% deposit, you can get a good enough rent to cover the costs of your mortgage. Now, for the first year or two, you may need to put in a little bit extra to cover the mortgage payments. And then after a year or two, the rent will have gone up enough so that you don't have to put in any more to cover the mortgage payments, all right? So again, we're not using any of the speed factors. If you do 30X Wealth with me, you'll learn a lot of the speed factors. If you do my landlord full one-day training on real estate, you'll learn all of the speed factors in there. So this is what we're doing. We're buying that piece of real estate, right? We're going buying that house. There's its value. In 10 years, it should double, right? So we're going to assume that it did that. It's worth $500,000. Your loan is still about $200,000. Now, in 10 years, you will have paid off, because you all know if we say it's a 20-year mortgage, you know in the first 10, you don't pay off half of it. You only pay off maybe a quarter of the equity. But we're just going to assume, for argument's sake, in this one that it didn't go down at all, okay? Just to make the math real simple and real easy. So if I've got a piece of real estate valued at $400,000 and it's a good market, which is when we revalue, okay? We revalue in good markets when money is easy to borrow. We don't try and revalue when money is tough and tight and high interest rates and all that stuff, okay? We get that? That's simple. So I go and borrow $400,000, right? I borrow $400,000. I pay back the previous $200,000, so I'm left with $200,000. It's a loan. It's tax-free. Now, I don't get a deduction for it, of course, but I've got $200,000 sitting there in income. Now, the rents over 10 years should have gone up enough so that I can pay that $400,000 mortgage, that the interest or the rental income will pay for the interest and the repayments on that mortgage. So stay with me just for a second and let's see how this works in 10 years, okay? So we've bought one. We go and do a second one in 2.5 years. Now, you might have a deposit now and you can do one in 2.5 years' time again, or you might have a deposit, you might have to work for the next 2.5 years to get that first deposit for you, right? If you've owned a piece of real estate for the last 2.5 years, you have that deposit. You have equity built up. There is so much equity right now that, most people are just going to have to redraw against that equity and go for their life. Now, If I do that every 2.5 years, I buy another one, and so forth, right? What I'm doing is every 2.5 years redrawing against that. So every 2.5 years, I'm borrowing 400, paying off 200, and keeping 200 for myself. So that's 200 grand every 2.5 years if I bought 4 pieces of property over 10 years. Now, if your numbers are different, you got to buy a 500,000 one now, then great, do it on those numbers. If your numbers are only 100,000 now, great, do it on those numbers. Now, here's where this gets tricky, right? Here's where it starts to get to be fun. I want to get you to do some math for me in just a moment. What if you did it every year? What if you were good enough in business right now that you could come up with that 50 grand a year every single year, and you could buy that $250,000 property every single year for 10 straight years? If you worked your tail off and said, here's 50 grand every year for 10 years, I'm going to buy a piece of real estate every single year. All right. Well, let's take a look at how this works. Let's imagine you only did 4 of them, right? So you did 4 of them. You purchased them at 250,000. You went to year 10 to year 7.5, okay? Year 10 to 7.5. They're all now worth 500 if they've doubled, which on average, you, again, do your research in your market. Does past performance mean it's going to 100% do that? No, but it's a pretty dang good indicator, right? So 500 grand, you're reborrowing and you get out 400, you pay off the 200, and hey, presto, you're sitting there looking like a genius at this point in time. Why? Because you're taking out 200 in each of these years. Now think about inflation. Great, the real estate's going up. Your income or your borrowings are going up as well. Year 30 to 37.5, 2 million in value. So, you know, when it's $1 million in value on average, 2 million in value on average, and people go, properties won't do that. Real estate doesn't go up like that. Okay, do the research in your market. I know my markets that I invest in, some markets in Texas, some markets here in Las Vegas, markets in Australia. I know the markets that we look at and think, Corey, the link to the wealth program. Can you put that link back up for me, please? The 30-day wealth challenge. Yeah, that's the one. Thank you. So what we're doing here is we're actually going and building that real estate. Now, I want you to do some quick math here just with me for a second. You'll need a pen and paper, okay? Now, here's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you something that's fairly simple. Let me just get a little piece of paper right here. If, let's say, you were very smart with this thing, right? And you bought one, okay? That one house that you just bought, okay, here's your little house that you just bought. At the end of 10 years, you've got 200 grand in spare cash, right? 200 grand in spare cash at the end of that 10 years. How many deposits do you have with that 200 grand? How many deposits do you have with that 200 grand? You see what I'm saying? Well, the houses are now worth how much? 500 grand, right? You got that? The houses are now worth 500 grand. We're here in year 10 to that. So that 500 grand means you need 100 grand in deposit. Okay, does everyone follow me? You need 100 grand deposit because that's 20% of the 500 grand that you've got in there. So here's the deal. At the end of every 10 years, each one house, and let's imagine your business has grown, okay? You study business with me as well, so your business keeps on growing. So you're still making enough money to pay for your life. But at the end of 10 years, that first house, you've got 200 grand in free capital, so you can go and buy another 2 houses. See, this is like Monopoly, right? So this one, you still own it. You didn't sell it. You go and redraw against it, and you use that equity to buy 2 more. So now you're controlling $1.5 million in real estate, right? 1.5. You took your 50 grand deposit, and now you control 1.5 million in real estate. Here's where I want you to do the math, right? 1 becomes 3. At the end of this period that I got on screen for you, okay, at the 37th year, how many pieces of real estate do you own? If you follow that, your business is paying for your life. And every 10 years, you're turning one of these businesses or one of these things into 3 properties. Okay. Storm, am I planning on doing any more drive times? Yeah, I really do need to get back to doing that, don't I? It's just that Facebook, doing them live on Facebook has become a joke. Facebook is just become a joke. They don't push it out to anybody anymore. So I'm doing a lot more in studio these days, Storm, and a lot more webinars like this. I find that I enjoy doing the webinars more because I can get into more detail around stuff and I can take questions and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, Kenny, servicing criteria. Let's talk about that. Why do we need our business to keep growing? Okay, the reason we need our business to keep growing is so that our income keeps going up. As long as our income keeps going up, then our capital keeps growing and going up because our borrowing capacity. You don't borrow. A mortgage is not a loan against the value of the asset. A mortgage is a loan against your income. All right, anyone got the number for me? Has anyone worked out how many pieces of real estate you would own? And again, this is not using any speed techniques. We're not using any negotiation techniques. We're not using any add value techniques of renovation. We're not doing any of that sort of stuff. We're not drawing down early once we've done the renovation. We're waiting 10 years, okay? Yeah, they are a lot of good content, Storm. I will get back to doing drive times. I know my team yell at me for not doing them, so I will have to do that. So who's got a number for me? Has anyone done the math? So let's do it at the end of 10 years. Each one adds 2 more. So you bought 4 houses. By the end of the 10th year, or so by the end of that first cycle, you've got 2 deposits from every single house. So each one becomes 3. So you're at 12. Now, those 12 properties grow for another 10 years and give you another 2 deposits. In that case, the deposit will be 200 grand because it's worth $1 million. You borrow 800, pay off the 400. And I hope you're all sticking with me on this. So you've got 12. How many does 12 become? It becomes, come on, let's see who's doing the math with me. 36 is correct, okay? So from 36, you then roll it another time. And boom, all of a sudden, you're sitting here as a real estate investor with 100, how many, gang? Come on, someone's got to type the number in for me. Let's see who's got it. I want to see who's sticking with me on this speed of growth of this thing. So the 4 of them that you purchased become 12 properties because your business is paying for life still. 108. Thank you, Storm, for being the mathematician of the group. This, my friends, is why I believe people need to understand money. This is why we need to understand money and why we need to study it and why we need to get to know it. Now, a couple of things you need to understand here. And who was it that Kenny mentioned the servicing criteria? So let's take a look at that, what actually happens right here. When we go into real estate, we have to understand that there is always growth in real estate. There's always growth. Oh, yeah, I can take down, we can take down that. Everyone click on the wealth challenge if you want it. I will be taking that down now. Thank you. Thank you. The other challenges, yes, I can put those up. Here's the 30X life challenge, okay? This one also, I believe, August is sold out. I know it says starts August 1st, but August is sold out. I'm not even sure if September's sold out. It probably is. But so when we go into real estate, something's always growing. Now, again, that life challenge is at $99 in there just because I want testimonials. Till the end of this year, all I'm getting is testimonials from people when they use the information in there. So I want several hundred testimonials. And once we get that, then we'll go live with the whole promotion, marketing, all that sort of rubbish that we will do. So the growth happens like this. One thing is growing or the other. Either the rental is going up or the value is going up. Now, when value gets too high, everyone says, oh, it's too expensive, I may as well rent. So everyone goes to renting and it pushes rentals up. Now, we also know that in the current market, millennials love renting. So it's great for us landlords that millennials love renting. But also the volume of people wanting to own their own home has gone up dramatically because of the fact that they want to work from home, run their own business, all of that sort of stuff. Now, when rents get too high, people say, this is crazy. Why would I rent? I may as well buy. So they go and start buying and it pushes values up. And then costs go up. Like right now, how much have we seen with inflation, the cost of manufacturing a house go up? yeah, click that last link then, gang. I'll get Gona to take that down for you. Remove that one there. Thank you, Gona. So, oh, if you want to do all three, okay, yeah, all three. I've seen people asking the business one as well. Here's the deal: get all three of them, all three challenges: wealth, business, and life. Do the 90-day challenge. That'll be a heck of a lot of fun. 90 days with me. Imagine your brain in 90 days. Yeah, so Kenny, you're seeing 20% cost rises in New Zealand. I know here we're looking at some of the stuff we've just done, and we're seeing about 11 to 13% price across the board. Wage hikes, just the wage hikes for painters, plumbers, electricians, that's driving it through the roof. Thanks, Jess. You did 30X Life. Now you're on to wealth. Excellent. Glad that you are jumping from one to the next. I look forward to your testimonials. They will be fun. As we start doing this whole thing, you see the cost going up. Cost of land is going up. The cost of rental, like with the interest rates going up, the cost is going up. Therefore, rents have to go up. Rents are going to go up with interest rates going up. I remember you speak in New Zealand, Kenny, years ago. I did an interview with a newspaper down there. And they were asking me a question because at the time, the New Zealand government was making investors put a 40% deposit down to buy a house, right? Because they were blaming investors for this massive rise in housing prices, whereas they should have been blaming themselves. They just weren't building enough real estate to keep up with the marketplace. They weren't approving enough construction to keep up with the market. So there was a lack of real estate, which is what's happening right now. If you take a look at the market right now, we see still a massive undersupply in real estate in most markets across the United States. UK is the same. We're seeing an undersupply. So that's a great thing for all of us. Even though inflation is high, even though wages, all these other things, we still see an undersupply in real estate. So that's a great thing for us to keep the market driving. Okay, okay. Gang, you guys are fast on the chat questions here. I will come back to that interest rate thing in a moment, Tom, and I'll go into a bit more detail on that. My landlord course. Gona, do you have a link for the landlord course? We have the whole Entrepreneur University. All right, let's put that up there. You can go onto that one and click there and get some information there. It gives you the link to the landlord course on that page as well. This is my Entrepreneur University. It's 7 days with me throughout the year, 4 events. We do 2 days, 2 days, 2 days, and 1 day. They're all done via Zoom because we do it worldwide. That's the thing. So getting back to this whole thing, the values going up and up and up is always, the equilibrium is very rare. Now, in the last few years, we've seen a double down. We've seen rents going up and values going up. We've seen an amazing time for all of us. Now, I'll give you a reasoning for that. The biggest reason for that is not just demand. The second reason for that is that there are massive venture capital companies now coming into the market that are just pushing rents higher. So they're buying hundreds and hundreds of apartment buildings, condos, all sorts of things, and they're just pushing the rent higher on them. So they're professionally driving that market higher and higher and higher. So, it's a wonderful thing for all of us as investors, as owners, that they are helping us with that. So, Tom, back to the inflation thing. Yes, I'm seeing there's going to be layoffs coming fairly soon, and that's a great thing for the marketplace, okay? And if you're in the right position, you watch that cycle. When you study wealth, the 30X Wealth, there's a full day session on that, a full half hour on the wealth cycle. So how do you know where in the cycle you are based on the indicators in the market at that point in time? So make sure that day you spend a lot of time on that one, okay? Even rewatch it a couple of times because it's quite complex. But that being said, it's also very simple when you get to understand it. For me now, I can look at any market, any town, anywhere and see that. So even though we're seeing this time, and you saw NFTs come back and then go again, like Bitcoin dropped and then doubled again, and ETH went down. Even though we're seeing that in the that marketplace, the stock market is having its woes as well. But businesses' profits are not down yet. So when business profits are still not down, they're the things. So, we saw the Anti-Inflation Act passed a couple of days ago, which, throw a bunch more money into the marketplace for the Anti-Inflation Act. It's like, you got to love it. This is a government that says, we're going to make the rich pay all of their taxes. And they go and employ, like, I forget the number, like 10,000 new IRS agents. Yeah, there's 700 billionaires. There's 10,000 IRS agents. They're really coming for the richest of the rich. No, they're not. They're coming for the average person and the average business out there. Let's be blunt about that fact. So here we are sitting with this equilibrium. All right, I got to finish this teaching stuff before I get to all the questions. So if you did this stuff, right, if you did one a year, if you double down, every one becomes 3 at the end of 10 years, or even faster during a boom cycle, okay? Sometimes during a boom cycle, you can double down in a 3 to 5 year period. If you went to multi-income properties, if you learned to buy wholesale, if you understand how to do renovation that actually adds value, not renovation like you see on the TV shows that makes it look pretty. We want to do renovations that increase our rental income and increase our valuation, okay? All of these things, if you study all this stuff, which you're going to learn you're going to start your learning on that in the 30X Wealth Challenge, and you're going to continue when you come on my landlord training, how we actually do that stuff with examples and all. So do the 30X, do the 90 days. If you do all 3 of them, you get the 90-day challenge, wealth, business, and life. And here's my question to you. Okay, we've been together for 52 minutes here so far today. Some of you have learned from me in the past. If you're with me for 90 straight days, let's do this. The next 90 days. Yeah, Gona, thanks. Put that offer back up. If you're with me for the next 90 straight days, 30 minutes a day for 90 days, 15 hours of me and you together, right? Every single month, 15 hours a month, 45 hours total of me teaching you about life principles or success principles, business, and wealth. How do you think your change of mindset? I didn't click the button. How do you think your mindset will shift 90 days from now? How far will you be thinking different in 90 days? Now, if I can revolutionize your thinking, then we revolutionize your life. No more complex than that. The 4 trainings purpose is 2 days on building a great life, how to live a life on purpose, build a life plan. Landlord is to build your real estate plan. Scalability is where we build your business plan, how to scale your business massively. Entrepreneur is how we learn how to buy, build, and sell companies and build onto your wealth plan that you start in the 30X program. All right, so that leaves us with approximately 4 minutes for questions. There's the 30X Life Challenge. Hopefully you got the link to that. And the 30X Wealth Challenge is also on the links that you got, okay? Okay, so let's think this through just for a second, okay? We as investors want to use other people's money, other people's time. Who's the easiest money to use? Bank's money. We want to use other people's time. Whose time do we want to use? Our tenant. We want the tenant to pay the mortgage. We want the bank to lend the money, and we want to control that asset. Remember, after 10 years, what we talked about taking your $50,000 deposit and controlling $1.5 million in capital growth. Remember, if it's going to grow, if it's going to double every 10 years, you want to control as much of an asset as you possibly can. Owning something that's worth 500 grand that doubles, it'll only double to $1 million. If I own $1.5 million and it doubles to 3 million. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work that out. Okay. Oh, this is a great question. I love getting this question because Robert Kiyosaki says your own home is not an asset. I say bullshit. Your own home is definitely an asset. Why? Who would you rather pay rent to, yourself or someone else? If you're paying rent to someone else, you're paying for their wealth for them, right? You're paying their mortgage off for them. If you're paying rent to yourself, you're paying your mortgage off. Yes, your home doesn't bring you income, but here's the deal. You're paying off your own mortgage. Now, ultimately, a mortgage is the future value of the asset. So what they're saying is if I take out say I take out a $200,000 mortgage and I end up paying off $600,000 to pay off the mortgage, then the future value of that property should be about $600,000 or more by the time I've paid it off. I hope that makes sense to you, that what you're doing with a mortgage is paying the future value. The key to it, though, and why I love investing in real estate is, and this is what I've left this till my last teaching for the day, is that someone else pays for 80% of it for me. Someone else is in that house paying the mortgage, and that person pays the mortgage on my behalf. They call it rent, but it's actually them paying the mortgage. So they pay my mortgage for me. I walk away with this whole home owned outright after 20 years of paying the mortgage. That might be 25, but usually we try and do 20-year mortgages so that it's paid off inside a lifetime, okay? Now, I'll give you an example of where that would be good. What alternatives, Mike? You can watch my other webinars where I did the whole one on business investing, real estate, stocks, and business are the three main investments that I would look at. Think about this one, right? And we go through all three of them in the what do you call it, Mike? In the 30X Wealth, we go through all three different areas and how to build. Because what I want you to do for 30X Wealth is build your wealth plan. I want you to build a plan, because a wealth plan is like a business plan, but it's all about your wealth business, your wealth asset, whether it's a trust or a company or a partnership, but your wealth vehicle needs a business plan. And that's really what we're trying to get people to get. So you think through building serious wealth. It doesn't come from doing crazy things. It comes from over a period of time following a plan. But imagine this. Imagine you went and bought a piece of real estate because you had a 1-year-old grandchild, right? Your grandkid is 1, okay? Or your child is 1. Some of you are a lot younger than us on here. At 1 year old, you buy them a piece of real estate. You put that in a trust for them. Over the next 20 years, someone else lives in that house and pays the mortgage off for them. Now, has the rent gone up over 20 years? Yes, of course, the rent has gone up over 20 years. At the end of that 20 years, the house is fully paid off and the rental income is up quite significantly over a 20-year period. And on their 21st birthday, you give them that house, and all it cost you was the 20% deposit 20 years ago. Not 20% of its current value, not 100% of its current value. A 20% deposit 20 years ago. How much of a genius do you look like as a grandparent all of a sudden? That's what we got to learn, gang. That's what we got to do, and that's where we need to position ourselves out there in the marketplace. The wealth challenge, yes, we can put the wealth challenge back up. For those of you who are slow at thinking about this, let's get out there. Let's get on the wealth challenge. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. 30 days, 30 minutes a day. Let's get on wealth, and let's really build some serious wealth for you and your family over the coming 10, 20 years of investing and building that success for you. Take care. Be well. Click the link, and really appreciate all y'all being here. Bye for now.